Oh, yeah. For what?
It's the remote control to his shadow box.
It lights up. I can't wait 5 more years for this to happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, today the men and women of the Air Force Technical Application Center, in keeping with one of the oldest traditions in the military service, pay special tribute to Technical Sergeant Sean Alexander Landolt on the occasion of his retirement from over 20 years of distinguished service in the United States Air Force. The presiding officer for today's ceremony is Director of Operations of the 23rd Analysis Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel Laura Barnes. Please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the playing of our national anthem by Sergeant Landolt on the ukulele, followed by the invocation to be given by Jedi priest Jason Wisman.
As you can see, it's a giant ukulele.
CYS Operations Superintendent, Jedi Priest, Senior Master Sergeant Jason Wisman, will you please come forward to give the invocation?
Please bow your head. O great and powerful force, we sense your presence all around us as you flow through all that is. Please watch over and guide us through these proceedings. Be our companion, as you were Sergeant Landolt's companion for these past few years, as he served our great nation with honor, upholding not only the core values of the Air Force, but also those of the Jedi. Make our fellowship strong, infuse us with righteousness, give us wisdom, and steer us towards the light. There is no emotion, there is peace. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no passion, there is serenity. There is no chaos, there is harmony. There is no death, there is the force. I would like to congratulate and wish Sergeant Landolt and his family the best of luck on their future endeavors. I know the force will continue to guide them. Thank you, and may the force be with you always.
Please be seated. There are a number of special guests here today who we would like to recognize. Sergeant Landolt's wife, Rachel, with her children, Oscar and Riley, and joining us via Zoom, Michaela. His mother, Mrs. Pamela Green, and her husband, Carrie Green, as well as joining us via Zoom, his father, Peter Landolt, and his husband, Robert Gaffney. Ladies and gentlemen, Director of Operations, 23rd Analysis Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel Laura Barnes.
First, I just want to thank everyone for being here. This is a special occasion that we get to celebrate and such a beautiful location to do it in. So thank you for being here. I want to say thank you to Sean's family, Rachel and Oscar and Riley and Michaela on Zoom. Today is just as much about you as it is your dad. And the sacrifices that you've made these years as well, moving around, supporting him. So thank you for being here. And then to Sean's mom, Pam and Carrie, thank you both for being here so much. I know there was a trek down from New York, but we're glad that you could join us. And then to Sean's dad, Peter, and to Robert as well, thank you for joining us on Zoom. We're grateful for this technology that you could watch this great occasion today. So we're here to celebrate 20 years of service. It's a great milestone. And if you look over these 20 years, as I was talking to Sean and his family, there's some themes that I think are apparent. And mostly I see it as selflessness. You're going to see that as I talk about what Sean's done, I think through the leadership and through the service that he has shown in each of his assignments and each of his positions. It's been 5 assignments, 5 different assignments, 2 different career fields, 2 deployments. So it's been a lot of change and a lot of learning of new skills, is what I learned. So if you go back to high school, Sean, when he graduated, I don't know that he was sure what he wanted to do with his life. And so I told his mom, okay, Mom, I'll go to college, but if this doesn't work, I'm going to join the Air Force. And according to Sean, no one really believed him. But I think at the time, it wasn't that he didn't think college was going to work. I think he knew he was being called to something bigger. And that's what he's done in these 20 years. So he started off in 2001 at Keesler Air Force Base as a medical laboratory journeyman, where he handled day in and day out, taking, storing, testing medical samples of all kinds. Over hundreds of thousands a year. In one instance, he handled 400 units of blood that were used and stored and sent in support of troops in Operation Enduring Freedom. So not just keeping airmen healthy at home, but also supporting airmen downrange. When he was there as an A1C, these are the words used to describe Sean. Inspirational leadership skills as an A1C. Community leader. From the very beginning, you could see that Sean was going to be a leader and he was going to serve the people around him. Unfortunately, his time at Keesler was cut a little short. And I tell this story, I'm sure there's still some pain around it, but Sean was at Keesler when Katrina came through. He and his family lost everything they owned. But he didn't give up. In fact, if I read right, he volunteered to help clean up at Keesler in the days following. He just lost everything and he was helping other people. So in the months that followed, the Air Force took care of him the best they could, and he landed out in Colorado at the United States Air Force Academy. While he was there, his son Oscar was born. I think we share that in common. Fort Carson is a great place to be born. My son was born. But while he was there, Sean promoted to medical laboratory technician. And now we start to see even more of this leadership and mentoring. So as he's learning new skills and taking on new responsibilities, still handling hundreds of thousands of tests, you start to see things like he updated processes. He saved 43 hours. He trained 21 new techs. The Air Force Academy processes about 1,000 cadets every year. And so that's 1,000 people coming through on one day. And Sean helped with 12,000 tests in one day. And moving those cadets through in one instance. So he's technically proficient. He's mentoring the younger airmen below him. He's teaching them the skills. He's improving the office. And we start to see that he's taking on additional duties. So here the list of additional duties starts to get longer. In this case, he's the lab hazmat monitor. So he's responsible for 233 hazmat materials. Where are they stored? How are they disposed of? How do we keep people safe from these materials? So we're, again, seeing this leadership, this service, commitment, selflessness. While Sean was at USACA, he deployed for 4 months to Honduras as part of the medical group there. He, again, handled samples and tests, but I think what's even greater is he used the time there away from his new son, spent over 200 hours volunteering in the local community in Honduras, raised like $60,000 for local community while he was there. He did such a great job that he was awarded the Volunteer Service Medal for the work that he did in Honduras. So again, just giving back and service and selflessness. After USACA in 2009, Sean decided he wanted to try something new. So he completely switched career fields, left the medical world behind, and he said, how do I get to Patrick Air Force Base? Well, there's one job. But you'll see that this was destined as well. So Sean switched to the 9S-100 and ended up out here at Patrick Air Force Base at AFTAC, where he learned how to be a shift supervisor on the floor. He was almost immediately leading teams in our 24-hour ops and learning those skills, seismic skills, over tens of thousands of seismic events a year. Sean had to completely learn new technology, new data, everything, as if he was starting over. But you see immediately he's already a shift supervisor. Now I said this was fate because it was while he was here that he met Rachel. And Rachel, when I asked him about you, he paused because I don't know that he could put into words how much he feels about you. But what I took from it was a ray of happiness. And I think that's what you've been in his life since the moment he saw you. He said it was love at first sight. But like many military couples, they had to start a little sooner than they wanted to, because Sean was tagged for deployment, and so they had to move their wedding up to get married before he left on deployment. So they did that. They were married in May of 2013. April of 2013. And then in May, Sean left for IUD. So Rachel, again, thank you for your service. That's a rough way to start a marriage. But while Sean was at IUD, again, he learned a new skill, something completely new. He was sent to the KOC there and was responsible for the tasking and management of 8 geostationary satellites that produced 120,000 theater images. So we've gone from medical to seismic data to tasking satellites and providing targets for troops on the ground. So again, just a smart brain. The Air Force has gotten a lot of use out of. When Sean was done with that deployment, he came back here to AFTAC, and this is when he was. I think most of you here met him. He was pulled over to geophysical data evaluations. So what this means is all that data that he learned how to read when he was on the floor in those 24-hour ops. Now he gets to do that final expert level evaluation on that data that goes into the long-standing reports that AFTAC produces. So he's now gone from learning to helping others to learn to being the expert. And he did that for us for a couple of years, evaluating data. But then you see, again, he's reaching out to other, how do I serve more? So he's leading software tests, and he's building effective protocols and procedures. Training plan, he standardized the training plan and reduced time by 20% just by looking at the processes and helping the unit out. He continued to mentor those airmen that he used to lead on the floor as well. So he built a mentoring program to teach them and bring them along and help them to grow as well. After a couple of years, Sean decided he'd like to try something else, a new task again. But this time he got to take Rachel and Oscar and Riley with them, and they moved to Thailand for 3 years. While he was there, he worked out of the embassy. He was responsible for all of the AFTAC equipment, shipping, some maintenance in all of Southeast Asia. So for 3 years, he made sure that AFTAC's operations were able to stay steady in that area. And I'm sure it was a fun time of seeing the world. And then in 2019, he came back here to AFTAC. He's come back to us. I think probably when he left, we weren't the 23rd. He came back, now we're the 23rd. And I know that we've been glad to have him. He's stepped up as NCO IC of the flight and has, again, works every day to mentor those younger than him, works every day to make, it's not even a question, to make sure his data is done expertly, but then to bring everyone else along and to continue to grow the program. I didn't highlight all of the various volunteer efforts that Sean has done, but he told me that that's something very important to him. It wasn't just his time in Honduras, but it's consistently Habitat for Humanity and a soup kitchen and Relay for Life and giving back to the community is something that is so important to him, is to go beyond just a service to the Air Force, but also to his community. If you remember what was said of him as a A1C, inspirational leadership skills, mentoring those below him, was seen from the very beginning. Community leader, reaching out, building the program in-house, but reaching out in the community and serving in that way as well. I asked Sean what he's going to miss the most or what he cherishes the most from his time, and he said 2 things. He said the structure of the Air Force and getting to wear the uniform. And I think that really those 2 things just speak to the calling that he had 20 years ago to join the Air Force. Right? The structure is what provided the discipline and the framework so that he could do the things that we've seen him do throughout his career. He could be technically proficient, but then give back, mentor, lead, build programs, and make the Air Force a better place.
And the relationship.
And the relationships. Oh, I'm sorry. But that I was gonna roll into the uniform, right? This has become Sean's identity. It's an identity he was called to when he was 18 years old. And part of that is the relationships that he's built throughout. He's known many of you for a long time. And I know that it's very important to him that you were able to make it today. And that those relationships are not going to stop just because today is retirement. But those 2 things, the identity of being in the military, the structure that it provided, again, they go back to that calling that I think he felt when he was 18. To serve, to lead, and to ultimately be selfless. So Sean, congratulations today. I'm honored to be here with you.
At this time, Sergeant Landolt will receive the Air Force Commendation Medal. Please stand for the presentation of the award. Attention to orders. Citation to accompany the award of the Air Force Commendation Medal, 3rd Oak Leaf Cluster, to Technical Sergeant Sean Alexander Landolt for meritorious service from 17 June 2019 to 31 October 2020. Technical Sergeant Sean A. Landolt distinguished himself by meritorious service as non-commissioned officer in charge of geophysical data evaluations, 23rd Analysis Squadron, 709th Surveillance and Analysis Group, Air Force Technical Applications Center, Patrick Space Force Base, Florida. During this period, Sergeant Landolt led a 12-member evaluation team that analyzed over 120,000 geophysical events. Of these, he personally evaluated over 10,000 events in support of the United States Nuclear Treaty Monitoring Mission. Additionally, he expertly managed his flight through a global pandemic by synchronizing duties despite a 60% manning deficit to support daily operations, ensuring no mission degradation and enhanced accuracy reporting. Sergeant Landolt's precision and high standards resulted in his selection to supervise the training of 6 junior analysts, which led to a 10% decrease in data inaccuracies. Finally, Sergeant Landolt was handpicked to stand up an advanced analytics team that evaluated and assessed data from over 9,000 geophysical events and alerted combatant commanders to over 150 suspicious events in areas of interest. The distinctive accomplishments of Sergeant Landolt culminate in a distinguished career in the service of his country and reflect credit upon himself and the United States Air Force. Sergeant Landolt is now authorized to wear the 3rd Oak Leaf Cluster on the Air Force Commendation Medal. Lieutenant Colonel Barnes will now retire Technical Sergeant Landolt.
Publish the order.
Department of the Air Force, Washington, D.C., Special Order Number AC002531. To Technical Sergeant Sean Alexander Landolt, effective 1 October 2021, you are relieved from active duty, 23rd Analysis Squadron, Air Force Technical Applications Center, Patrick Space Force Base, Florida, and retired from the United States Air Force, effective 1 November 2021, after 20 years and 8 days of faithful and honorable duty, per Air Force Instruction 36-3203, in the grade of Technical Sergeant, by order of the Secretary of the Air Force. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. I will now read the Certificate of Retirement from the Air Force Chief of Staff. The Armed Forces of the United States of America. To all who shall see these presents, greetings. This is to certify that Technical Sergeant Sean Landolt, having served faithfully and honorably, is retired from the United States Air Force on the 1st day of November 2021. Signed, General Charles Hugh Brown, Jr., Chief of Staff. Sergeant Landolt is also presented the Air Force Retirement Pin. This pin is to be worn on your uniform with pride. It signifies to everyone that the wearer of this pin has served his country well and honorably. Mrs. Landolt, please join Sergeant Landolt at the center stage. Now I would like to read the Spouse Certificate of Appreciation from the United States Air Force. In grateful appreciation, the United States Air Force presents this certificate of recognition to Mrs. Landolt for the commitment and numerous contributions that made positive impacts to the nation's defense. Thank you for the support which gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service. Signed, General Charles Hugh Brown, Jr., Chief of Staff. Mrs. Green, please join Mrs. Landolt in presenting the shadow box to Sergeant Landolt.
What is it?
Oh, you want to sit
Mrs. Landolt, please accept this gift from your spouse. It is representative of his gratefulness for your sacrifices and support during his career.
No, it's weird. Presents in front of people.
Mrs. Green, please accept this gift from your son. He could not have made it to this day without your love. And Tech Sergeant Landolt also has a small gift for his children. We will now have prior base honor guard members, Mr. Bobby Kuntz and Tech Sergeant Manny Rivero, come to the front to perform the flag folding ceremony. This American flag was flown on 11 September 2013 aboard a NASA WB-57 over Afghanistan in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. In honor of Tech Sergeant Landolt.
Sergeant Landolt, on behalf of the President of the United States of America, the Department of the Air Force, the Rebel Alliance, and a grateful nation, I present to you this token of appreciation for 20 years of service and sacrifice for all that you've done. Thank you. Congratulations.
Now, I present to you Technical Sergeant retired Sean Landolt.
Oh, wow. God, thank you guys, everybody that came, everybody that is on Zoom. Oh, this has been amazing. I think the most nervous I've been in my entire life was with that giant ukulele, playing my first gig. But I think it went okay. Where to begin? Thank you, Colonel Barnes, for your kind words. My family, Rachel, Mom, Carrie, Oscar, Riley, Michaela out there, Dad, Robert, everybody. Ryan, if you're up in Hong Kong watching at, God, I don't know, 3, 5 in the morning, whatever time, thank you. Grandma, Grandpa, if this is recorded and you're out there and you get to watch it, thank you. Everybody that I've come across over the past 20 years, no matter how big or small of a part, you know what, I've got this retirement pin on, so. I'm just gonna take that off. Thank you guys for everything. I couldn't have made it 20 years without everybody's help, without the guidance, the friendships, the friends that I've made across the assignments that Colonel Barnes mentioned. It got me through the time, the deployments, the assignments. Some of my closest friends that I've ever made have been in the service, as I'm sure most of you that also serve or have served would agree. My friends Q and Riz and Joe, and rest in peace, my buddy Gilo, who recently passed, who couldn't make it. Couldn't do it without everybody. Mary, thank you for taking pictures. Everybody is so appreciated. And what the Colonel said about selflessness, it is very difficult for me to hear stuff about myself or even say positive things about myself. But I hope most people that have worked with me or for me, or that I have worked for, would agree. From the time I came in, this never mattered to me. Sure, getting paid more is great. But if I was gonna stay true to myself, which I've always tried to do since I've come in, the people above me would be happy with the work that I was doing for them. And the people below me would always know, whether it was work or personal life, that I 100% was there for them, and peers as well. So if I've made it 20 years and the majority of people I've come in contact with have positive memories of me, then I don't know what the heck else I could ask for. So thank you for coming. I'm sure I forgot to say something that I meant to say that was like profound and vast. But let's once he closes us out, the other day we were practicing and I was like, let's go eat and drink. And then he was like, but I still have to say, so I'm not gonna step on his toes, but shortly we'll be able to have a drink together and eat some food. So thank you guys very much for coming, and that's it.
incredible to get that mustache in a single day. The men and women of the United States Air Force are proud to have served the Technical Sergeant retired Landolt and assure him that he will always be a valuable member of the Air Force and the AFTAC family. We wish him and Mrs. Landolt every success in their future endeavors. This concludes the retirement ceremony. Please stand and join us in singing the Air Force song. Off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun.
Here they come, singing to see our thunder. Adam boy, give them the gun, give them the gun. Down we dive, starting to flames from under. Off with one hell of a roll. We live in fame, we're down in flame. Hey, nothing can stop the U.S. Air Force.
Thank you, everyone. This concludes the ceremony. There is food and drink in the back.
You can have it. You can have one. Larry, Sarah.